Can Newcastle handle the favourites tag and hammer the hammers? Let's find out here tonight on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Oh, brilliant from Cher. And now Murphy can take on the shot. Fabian Cher
Evening, folks. I hope you are all well. How are you doing? Let's go. Match preview Newcastle versus West Ham. It's obviously on Monday. So the team would have time to come back and from their international travels and get ready. And I think there's already some footage, some photographs of Newcastle United players in training and stuff like that. I think Bruno Gomes and others are back. So we're really looking forward to having the football back. I'm really looking forward to doing the preview. And the unique part of today's preview, I usually have everything lined up and ready, but because of time, I didn't get to. So I'm actually going to find out more about West Ham as I'm doing the stream today. So we're going to do it together. We're going to do some tactical breakdowns of West Ham and Newcastle today together and see what are the strengths and weaknesses for West Ham as well as for Newcastle United. But before we do that, make sure you guys let me know in the chats, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure that you also let me know where you're listening from, where you're watching from, and how you are doing. Whether you are about to go out on a night shift, or you're about to go to sleep, or you're about to get the kids down, or whatever it is you're doing. I hope that today's stream sets you off in a good mood and sets you off in a good time. Let's do this technical breakdown together. But before we do that, I want to catch up on some Newcastle news. There's been a few things that's been announced and been seen. So let me share my screen with you guys. I'm going to do it for about 5 minutes because we've got a lot of stuff to go through in terms of the tactical breakdown itself. So let's do this. Yeah, and as always, do let me know how guys are doing. So, guys, Craig Hope today exclusive. Let me make sure you guys can see this properly. Yes, you can. NUFC working on new plans to expand current training ground, and he has full details in terms of more about Newcastle's January spending. Why a new stadium is more likely. What do you guys think about the news about the new stadium? Obviously, we had our the leaders of Newcastle United, the directors, the managers at Stack. Well, I can't remember all their names, but obviously our man Paul Mitchell was there, Eddie Howe were there, and there's a general feeling from everyone there that the owners, or at least from the directors' side of things, are looking and leaning towards a new stadium. And for those of you that have watched me previously, will know that I am pro new stadium, and I do say that with the understanding of, if you're a Newcastle fan in Newcastle, you want St James's Park to remain where it is, and ideally, I would want that too. However, because we can't expand the stadium to a capacity where it would be worthwhile, we have to find a new one. But I did suggest an idea where we still keep St James's. We build a new stadium, whether it's at Leazes Park or not Leazes Park. I forgot the park that we was talking about. If we build a new stadium, not too far from St James's Park, an 80,000 seater, for instance, but we keep St James's Park, for instance, and we kind of renovate it, get the women's team to use it, hopefully win many trophies on it, turn parts of it into a museum, mainly also turning, like, in terms of Newcastle stuff, related stuff, but like you may be using it for venues, for music venues and stuff like that, so it can be another kind of cash cow for us, a revenue stream for us to beat PSR essentially. I think that would be fantastic, as well as obviously building a new stadium on top of that. So that was my idea in terms of going forward. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think, look, hey, we need to keep St James's Park where it's at? We should stick to it and stuff like that. I totally understand it. I just want to know how we're going to increase our revenue to compete with essentially the top six guys. So that's my only thing. I want Newcastle to not only win trophies but to dominate, to be the number one, in the words of Yasser Ramayan. So without revenue, a consistent and large revenue, Newcastle can't do that. So that's what I just want to know how we do that. I Sport Newcastle drop. Yeah, they talked about obviously also Mark Douglas. Again, talked about the emotional journey that's likely to leave. Now, this is a new one. This is from Jack Talbot. I really like Jack in terms of how he's a journalist for transfer.com, but I think he's also works independently. I don't know if some of you guys know him as well. I've seen him on YouTube as well. Some of his stuff, like I do enjoy his material. He announced that said that. So he's told Newcastle and West Ham are the clubs most receptive to signing Kolo Muani. Now, I know that obviously he plays for PSG and plays for France as well. I haven't seen him play too many times apart from France actually, but I did do a little bit of a kind of statistical analysis of him recently, not too in depth, but I might do one for a video. But anyway, if you guys know a little bit more about him, do let me know. Essentially, what Jack is saying is that PSG are open to option to buy loan in January. That's an option to buy. So we have to spend money in January. There's an option to buy loan in January. It's not even an obligation to buy. It's an option to buy loan, which is very favorable for Newcastle, I think, when we're looking at PSR and everything else. My info, that being Jack, my info is that Man United are not in the run at this stage. Amorim is settling in, and Ineos are focused on the English market. So I think when I opened it up a little bit more, the article was saying that PSG are open to essentially loaning out Kolo Muani to the club that's most willing to kind of pay for the most of his wages. And he's currently on about it's incredible how much he's on actually. Let me just double check how much he's on, because I think he's on 200,000 plus, like 230k. I didn't think he'll be on that much, but that's just PSG for you really in terms of their wage structure. And so I think if Newcastle agreed to pay for 100k, 150k of that, I think PSG will say yes. And in January, now Kolo can play across the front three, mainly like obviously as a striker or attacking mid, but mainly across the front three. So left or right, he's right-footed, and I'm thinking that Newcastle are looking at him because of his flexibility, his versatility, across the front three. I think, and we've talked about it before in terms of a right wing or right wing forward, Newcastle are looking for someone that can play in the attacking mid position and can also move to the right wing, which Kolo can do. He has exceptional. In fact, let me see if I can get some highlights of him. Again, I'm learning with you guys more and more about him. I've liked what I've seen so far of him. And I know highlights are highlights. We can get highlights of good and we can get highlights of bad. But I think the main thing I'm trying to show is a little bit of his profile, really. Excellent. So he's got excellent dribbling skills, taking on skills as well. Really good first touch, strong, really good creator as well as a decent goal scorer. And I think with teams like PSG, even the best of players can struggle. We've known of Hugo Ekitike, for instance, here with Hugo Ekitike, who went down there. He suffered because obviously Kylian Mbappe and bigger stars were there, and he wasn't getting any game time. But then look what happened. Kylian Ekitike went to Frankfurt, and from what I can see and from what I'm hearing, he's absolutely killing it up there. So let me just show. So it might be the same case for Kolo Muani. Hopefully it will be. Is this? Yeah, it is it. So let's get a little bit of these highlights. Make sure you guys can see that. Yes, you can. So Kolo Muani, let's show a little bit of clips of him. Again, he's a forward, plays across the front three. France international. Let's see a little bit of what he's got there. So you can see him picking up the ball from deep there. Lovely dribbling skills, right through the middle. Again, he's got really good. Look at that. A lot of pace, trickery. He's got a good, really kind of creative act. And you guys, I don't know. Look at that pace over here as well. I think he's you guys would know from before, if you guys have watched me before, I prefer like a profile of a Madueke, a Cole Palmer, and a Kulisevsky. Tall, athletic, pace, strong, obviously with the creativity and strength. And Kolo Muani has that, I think. And, the only um, um, possible hesitancy from Eddie Howe side. I mean, it's not want to tar him. It's maybe obviously tar Eddie Howe this because he's obviously got players from abroad. He's not Premiership experienced, but I think he's got a lot of athletic qualities about him that would show that he can do it. He's obviously played at a high level, played in the Champions League, playing in League Arm, playing from PSG. So we know that he's got that quality, and obviously playing for France. So let me know what you guys, if you guys know more about him, do let me know. I'm still in that kind of investigative stage to see, what he's all about, what he does. But if this is true in terms of what Jack Talbot is saying, I wouldn't say no to Kolo Muani. But obviously a little bit more, some more breaking news in terms of another young defender from Club Bruges has been linked to us, and that is Mr. Joe Ordonez, who's Ecuadorian. He's a two-footed versatile. I didn't realize a two-footed who is comfortable with both at centre back and right back. Let's see what it says here. This is from Magpie Media. Big up Magpie Media. So Newcastle are interested in signing 20-year-old Club Bruges defender Joe Ordonez in the January transfer window, according to Court of Side. He's two-footed, and he's obviously been playing in the Champions League through Bruges. I think he's come through in the last year or so. The Belgian Giants are expected to demand around 30 million euros for him, which is about 25 million pounds. That's a bit steep, in my opinion, to sell Ordonez mid-season. Okay, well, mid-season, you can see why it is steep. I can imagine Newcastle waiting. And they expect competition to emerge for his signature. Yeah, probably. But Newcastle's ability to create an environment in which young players can develop and increase their value could give them the edge in negotiations. So I don't know much about him. I've seen a few highlights of him. He seems to be the main person who he's kind of like a Shaw profile in terms of his ability on the ball, his ability to do those crossfield passes, breaking the lines and things of that nature. But obviously, he's very young. He's playing in the inferior league in terms of the Belgium league, but there's some raw potential within him. And but let me know what you guys think. Would you take him on 25 million pounds in January, or do you think Newcastle should? If they can't get a Mark Gahey type of signing, should they go for a younger signing with more potential, like a Mr. Ordonez himself? Let me know if you guys know more about him as well. Do let me know what you think. Um, I have to do a little bit more research on him, and I will do that if his name. Actually, I'll do it anyway. I was going to say I'll do that if his name comes up again, but it's interesting. Been getting linked to obviously Joshua Achapong from Chelsea. A lot of these like young defenders, and so I'm kind of looking forward to that. Is this not it? Is there any other news? So yeah, a lot of transfer signings. Jack Talbot there, the Ecuadorian. And I think we talked about Mr. Miggy Almiron before. It's looking more and more likely that he's going to leave us in this January transfer window. Newcastle are trying to make a sell of him. I think Kieran Trippier and possibly Callum Wilson are also on that shopping list, which would make sense. I mean, we really, I don't know what you guys think, but this January transfer window, for me, I'm almost thinking it's more about the people that we sell than the people we buy. Or they're both just as important. But I really want Newcastle's ability to sell and to sell well. I really want to see that improve, and I want to be able to see that through Paul Mitchell. So I'm keen to see that happening. I think if we sell Callum Wilson, Kolo Muani is a good replacement, especially for an option to buy, so we don't spend that money in January. So again, keeping in mind the PSR and things like that, that'll be good business in my opinion. If we sell Miggy Almiron and buy RCB, a right centre back, for instance, either Gahey, for instance, for 40, 50 million. Again, that would be great. So if you get a Gahey or Kolo Muani, again, I want to know a little bit more about Kolo Muani before I say this, but if he is what he's kind of advertised to be, I think that'll be exceptional business for Newcastle. So let me know what you guys think. Otherwise, some good information there, some decent transfer business. So let me drink my tea. Newcastle, West Ham. As I mentioned earlier, I haven't got to prepare as much as I like for it. So we're going to do this off the cuff. We're going to do this together. We're going to find out about these teams. We're going to find out about West Ham together. Let me make sure you guys can see this. Yes, you can. So footy fought mob. So let's do this. Let's do this. Press the wrong button. Okay, West Ham, 25th of November. That's the head-to-heads. Before we get to the head-to-head, let's see where we're at. So West Ham, obviously, Kudus is suspended for this game, which is a big miss for them. I forgot Dan Burn is suspended, which means Lloyd Kelly will come back in. Callum Wilson is doubtful, but we've been promised that he'll be back after this international break. And I'll be really, really happy to see him and Kieran Trippier, who's also here, at least on the bench. Because I think that, well, I'll talk about the likely squad, but it'll be good to see Callum Wilson and Trippier on the bench, possibly with Tonali and Barnes. I think that would be the bench is looking really, really good. And obviously, Emil Kraft is out injured, and Botman. Botman is slowly making his way back. So yeah, I mean that's the lineup. That's not the lineups. That's the injuries. Team forms. Now we know for ourselves, obviously, since that Brighton game, we lost 1-0. We had that situation where obviously we started after not playing well in the earlier 3 or 4 games, but getting results. We then got 2-3 games where, including Brighton and Chelsea, we played relatively well, but we didn't get the results, particularly the Brighton game. But then we've managed to merge performance with results. In the League Cup game against Chelsea, we beat them 2-0. In the game against Arsenal, which was another good game to me, best of the season, and before, which is we went to Nottingham Forest and we won it away. We won it away to Nottingham Forest, who were the team in form, and beat them 3-1, which is my favourite performance so far this year. That's the last 5 games. For West Ham, they've been really mixed, really up and down, as we can see. From the Ipswich game where they won 4-1 handsomely, they then lost 4-1 to Tottenham, which wasn't so handsome. And I watched that game and Tottenham demolished them. Then they go and beat Man United 2-1, and that obviously caused a Ten Hag sacking. And Man United were playing relatively well, and they actually did quite well in that game. And let me make sure I see that game actually before I start, because I remember Man United fans saying they had the better of that game. Man United had West Ham. Man United had more possession, but when West Ham had more of the expected goals, I think it's because of the penalty. But Man United had the more shots, had the more shots on target, had the more big chances created as well as big chances missed. So if it wasn't for that penalty, there'll be less expected goals for West Ham. So, yeah, I mean, real mixed performance there from West Ham, but they got away with the win. Then they went away to Nottingham Forest, where they were demolished 3-0. And I did part of the highlights for that game because one was looking at Nottingham Forest, and West Ham were terrible. They lacked intensity, and I'm going to focus on their intensity in this match preview as well, because I'm beginning to I'm forming an idea that there's an issue there, either tactically, or where possibly either the players don't believe in what the manager is doing, hence the lack of intensity, or they just don't understand what they're doing. Again, or both, which would be terrible. Then obviously West Ham had played Everton at home and drew 0-0. That was an awful game. I didn't see. I only saw highlights of it, but the commentators and what I've heard, it wasn't great for them. So what is going on with West Ham? What are they doing and what they're up to? Let's delve a little bit deeper. Let's see what we get now. Obviously, on the table side of things, before we get there, we're currently eighth, Newcastle, 18 points, 13 goals, 13 goals scored for us, and 11 conceded, which gives us a +2 goal difference. Should we win, that will put us on 21 points, which theoretically could put us in third. Obviously, that is if Fulham, Brighton, Nottingham Forest, Arsenal, and Chelsea all lose their games, which is highly unlikely. But a victory in either way um, would would propel us up the table somewhat and keep us in that chasing pack for the Champions League spot. West Ham are a little bit lower. They're currently in 14th position with 12 points, -6 goal difference, 13 goals, same as us. So they've they've had as much chance. They've had as much luck in front of goal as we've had, but they've conceded. They have conceded 19 goals, and yeah, I think obviously the defensive side of things and the conceding side of things is where they're having the most issues. I didn't realize that Brentford scored 22 and conceded 22. That's insane. Bournemouth scored 15, conceded 15. I'm not talking about that. I didn't realize that. That's crazy. This league table, this current the points and everything else is insane. I didn't realize just how close things are. What do you guys think so far of this whole kind of the league and everything else was going on? But anyway, I mean, we've got 4 points separates the 13 teams here. That's just not 13. Where Liverpool are well ahead. But in terms of who is it from 15 to third place, 4 points, and then obviously West Ham are at the bottom of 12. So defense and what I suspect is their lack of intensity is what's pulling West Ham down. In terms of our head-to-heads of Newcastle, obviously there's Newcastle have 13 wins and 6 draws, and to West Ham 6 wins. So even when we didn't have the takeover, we've had relatively good results to them. Obviously, the last being the terrific 4-3 win against West Ham, where at one point during that game we were 3-1 down and came back to win it. Before that, obviously, it was 2-2 at West Ham. Again, a game I thought we could have won. But then before that, again, we beat them 5-1, and it was 1-1, and so forth. So Newcastle obviously had the favorable results against West Ham, especially in the last, for a little while now. In the last 5 games, we've won 2 games with 3 draws. So we'll be heading into it with some confidence. What do you guys make up of West Ham? What do you guys make up of their season? Let me know. So I've got to opt to analyst. I want to see a little bit more about West Ham because, yes, points-wise and everything else, they're not doing well. But they have scored an equal amount of goals to us. Now, I'm looking at the attacking. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah, let me maybe zoom in a little bit more because the numbers are really small, but it's no problem. I will read them out to you. Now, when I'm looking at West Ham here on Opt and Analyst, this is the attacking side of things. Now, goals-wise, they're right next to us with 13 goals. Their XG, so in terms of expected goals, again, they're right next to us. We've got 1.3. No, they've got 1.43. We've got 150. So we're both of our teams are underperforming our XG slightly. So there is a potential that for both of us to increase that. So where are their shots? I think again probably similar to us. Are they right next to us? How many shots have they got so far? 13.45. They're a little bit higher than us. So they haven't been. They're struggling in the attacking side of things. Where I feel like with Newcastle, I mean, they drew at home to Everton 0-0. whereas we beat Nottingham Forest 3-1 away. And so I think in terms of the creativity and obviously kind of shots on goal, Newcastle are on the up, whereas I think maybe West Ham are somewhere in the middle. Somewhere, are they stagnating? Are they regressing? Probably standing still. Passing side of things. Let's learn about West Ham's passing side of things. What's the average possession for West Ham? Are they a possession based team? Um, no, they're not. They're pretty much sixth from bottom for possession, 45.62%. Now that could mean that they're still playing that low block, which I think West Ham fans got wanting David Moyes to leave because of his really defensive styles, because of his really defensive style. So I'm wondering um, if the lack of possession from West Ham is because they're adopting those same tactics, or is it because they're essentially not being very good on the ball? Let's see what we can find out. So let's see how successful they've been with their passes. Obviously, Man City are right at the top of 90.62%. Again, West Ham are a little bit higher, but still pretty much in the bottom half, right next to us again. If you look at these stats, there's not a lot that separates us. Thankfully, the points do separate us, but they're pretty. They're on 80 in terms of successful passes, on 81.76%. So they're not, we're only in 81.95%. So West Ham are not bad in terms of actually keeping possession. So that might be an indicator of perhaps that, look, they have lower average possession, but it's not necessarily because they're bad in possession. In terms of keeping the ball, there might be something else to this. So in terms of final third passes, so are they able to sustain their attacks in the opposition half? Again, they're not too far from us, which is annoying. I keep on, I'm one. Coming into this game, you'll have a lot of people, and rightly so far. Newcastle's trajectory in the last couple of games shows that we're on the up, whereas West Ham are a lot more mixed. But it's at St James's Park. The game's at St James's Park. It's under the lights on a Monday. You fully expect Newcastle. There's a lot of confidence that Newcastle will win. But if you look at the metrics so far, possession, in terms of average possession, successful passes, now final third passes, so passes in the opposition half, West Ham are not far from Newcastle. So what is it at the moment that's really keeping West Ham down? What's going on with them? This is their final passes. So in terms of pass direction, where do they pass? Where are the forward passes? They're now in the top half. The reason, so Newcastle are fourth in terms of forward passes. So you can see why Newcastle are creating a lot of chances and scoring goals, where we are an attacking team. We're on 36%, whereas they're on 34%. Backward passes, West Ham are not high on that. What is it? Their left and rights. How many percentage of is 25% to their left, to their right, where I think Jarrod Bowen is, again, fairly even. What is happening with West Ham? What is going on with West Ham? Guys, if you guys know in the chat, what do you think some of the strengths or weaknesses of West Ham are? I'm going through this. Like I said, I typically do this stuff on my own before I present it to you guys, and I kind of tell you what I've done, but I'm kind of going through this with you guys as I'm talking. Crosses, percentage that are successful, they're in the bottom, way down, 19.8%. So there's a lack of, they're not, you'd think with Gerrard and Kudus, they'll be more successful in that, but they haven't been. And again, Kudus isn't going to be playing. Somerville, I think, will take over for him. And Somerville's been pretty decent. I didn't think he'd be, he's really been impressive. Well, impressive, he's been playing good. Through balls, Newcastle are in the top 6 for through balls, with about two through balls per game, whereas West Ham 1.45. So there's a suggestion there that West Ham are perhaps lacking a little bit in the creativity side of things, which might suggest maybe why they haven't been as creative as they would like to be. Now, defending, they've conceded 19 goals. They have conceded 19 goals. So maybe the defensive stats might give us a little clue as to what's happening with West Ham. Okay, so let's see. They've conceded this 19 goals. So they're about sixth worst in the league. Wolves, Ipswich, Brentford, Leicester, Southampton. So they're not in good company at the moment. In terms of that, they're conceding about 1.73 goals per game, so almost 2 goals per game, which is not good. When you're essentially scoring just above 1 goal per game. Expected goals against them, yeah. So they're expected to concede about 1.7 goals, which is exactly what we're talking about. So goals versus expected goals. The worrying thing about this stat is goals versus XG. Let me make sure I get this right before I say it. What I think this means when you've got goals versus XG. When you've got goals versus XG, what does it mean when your goals versus XG is goals versus XG? Remind me. So if it's Google. Let me remind myself. Let me take this. They're conceding goals, but it's only 0.3. So essentially, what's wrong? Typically, if you have let me get back to where we were. If we have, for instance, a situation where are you? Here we go. Can you guys see that? StreamYard? Yeah, you can. Brilliant. So their goals versus XG 0.3. What is it for? So if you let me get this right before I say it, because Newcastle are the highest. Let me see. Let me get back. Let me see. Well, let me see what I'm saying, because I think we might be getting to the point here where we might be getting a little bit to the truth of what's happening with West Ham. Goals versus XG is relatively West Ham are relatively high for this. So their expected goals, the actual number of goals a team or player scored, and interpretation, a higher number. So a measure of output, a higher number of goals generally indicates a more potent attack. So let me see. What is it why is there XG? Let me know, why is it? So Newcastle's XG, goals versus XG, is minus 0.35. So what does that mean? What does goals versus XG minus 0.35 mean? So the team has scored 0.35 fewer goals than expected based on the quality of their chances. This suggests that the team might be underperforming in terms of their finishing of their chances. However, so Newcastle have been underperforming in terms of the goals that they've been scoring at high. But there's also that potential that we can improve. Whereas West Ham, they've been kind of relatively the same. And what that means is that they're not underperforming, not overperforming, which might be even a greater concern for them, because if their current system means that their goals versus XG, let me see this. That means that means that isn't really working for them. Like this is the best that it can do. Like they're almost like on a stuck handbrake, if that makes sense, guys. Let me see. Point there, 0.3. So they've even scored more than expected. So according to the chances that West Ham have been creating, they've been scoring more. Let me share my screen again on West Ham. So West Ham are they're just very little. So their current method, their system means that they're just about performing where they should be, and that might be coming down to the manager really, if he's got them set up in this way, which isn't a positive thing. Whereas for Newcastle, for instance, our system, we're just getting better. Yes, we've got the same goals, but we're underperforming, which means there's more in us to score. So that's interesting. Defending. Let me see. They're not doing well, West Ham, in terms of their creativity, and what they're doing. Let's go to their previous game, West Ham, when they played Everton. So you're only as good as your previous game. I'm going to look at their passing patterns. What is happening? Why are they not being creative? Why are they only drawing with Everton at home? What is happening with them? Let me make sure you guys can see my screen. Yeah, you can. All right, brilliant. So let me get back to that. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, folks. Let's see what we got. XG map, passes, pass map. All right, so is this Everton, West Ham? It is, yeah. So this is West Ham. Now, the average position for West Ham, let me show you guys can see this. Yeah, you can. Let me increase the speed a little bit. Before I go into their passing, so this is West Ham from their goalkeeper here, Fabianski, to their striker or strikers, Jared Bowen, who's further afield. Antonio in the middle, obviously, very similar to what Chris Wood is to Nottingham Forest. Somerville on the other side of him. Very, very interesting. Okay, so that's their front three. Here, so they like to do not too dissimilar to Forest so far. So what is not working for them? So Emerson, who's their left back, it was pushed right up here, which then meant, and then on the other side you got Wan-Bissaka, who also pushes right up. He's a right back, and they got two defenders in Kilman and Todibo, essentially protecting that backline, whereas the fullbacks push up really, really, really high, especially Emerson, which allows Lucas Paqueta to also kind of be that main connector between him and Emerson. They're both Brazilians, 10 to 13 passes between them. And Somerville, and there's a connection. And obviously the main kind of creator in Paqueta, he had about 4 passes to Mikel Antonio back to Paqueta about 3 times during the game. Paqueta also, then who joined them? Rodriguez was in that midfield as well. I think he got red card in that game. Did he get red card in this game? He might have. And then Souček. So Rodriguez and Souček, who are big guys, but they're not mobile. And I think this might be the reason why they're not being as intensive in the midfield as they could be. If you see some of their strongest passing lanes, is obviously between Paqueta and Emerson, who pushes right up. But we saw in the Nottingham Forest game for Newcastle, for instance, where they like to push their fullbacks. The way Newcastle played with their possession type football with Gordon, Livramento on one side, Hall, Joe Linton on the other side, we pushed their fullbacks right back down, and this gave us the dominion in the midfield. Obviously, this is West Ham right now, and I just think, well, we're going to get to the tactics board, and if their main, the thickest lines you've got is between Lucas Paqueta and Emerson when he pushes up. Then you got Todibo and Souček and Rodriguez, who aren't the most creative of guys, and they only really connected with Antonio, for instance, on Antonio so you got 3 passes from Antonio to Souček to Antonio, 2 passes all game in a home game. So what's going to happen when they play us at St. James's Park? The other main connections are here between Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Gerard Bowen. and Bissaka to Bowen's about 8 passes during that game. Now, Bissaka isn't exactly a creative right back, but he does get up and down the pitch. He's an excellent 1v1 defender, but he's not the most creative. And if you can see, obviously, here in the middle, these passing lanes become thinner and thinner. And this is when they're playing Everton, West Ham. So they're not. It doesn't look to me that they are creating as much as they would like, West Ham, especially in the home game against. And in between their centre backs as well, there isn't much of a connection in passing lanes. And if we take, for instance, Newcastle, we'll show Newcastle. Those lines between Fabian Schär and Bern are a lot more thicker. So the main person that Fabianski passes to most of the time is to Todibo, and he's their ball-playing centre-back. So is Kilman, really. So they've got 2 good, decent ball-playing centre-backs, and I guess they're their main conductors here in the middle. So they get the ball off to Souček and Rodriguez, but then Souček and Rodriguez, again I mentioned, they're not as creative as they can be. Antonio and Bowen are not getting the ball as much as they would like. Bowen being their most forward player. Antonio is to be their connector as well, and kind of sets off the press. It's difficult for I think, in my opinion, it's difficult for West Ham to be as high pressing as they would like to be, because their midfielders are not as mobile and as intense as they could be, in my opinion. But why are they? I think there's a trouble in the West Ham's midfield, in my opinion. XG map. So we're going to see, where are the most of their goals being, where are the most of their kind of shot creating actions are happening. So where are West Ham? Who's this? So Everton. Looks like Everton had so West Ham are on the right side in the light blue. And most of their chances here, one came from Somerville's a left-footed shot in the 70th minute. The other big shot happened in the 86th minute through Danny Ings. So it looks like they didn't really get going until the 70th, 80th minute. Danny Ings. Before that, it's just shots from outside the box, 36 minutes from Emerson, their right back. Then it's Rodriguez, 0.0023. So they're not really creating dangerous shots. Carlos Sola, 86 minutes. Bowen 0.27 kind of this is the level of threat they're posing at the moment. I say all of that, they've got the same amount of goals as Newcastle, but I just see Newcastle improving on that, judging from the Forest game. The only thing I'm a little bit reserved about is that we're coming from an international break, and my thoughts are, how can Newcastle get back into the swing of things as soon as possible, really, in terms of the game. I can't see. West Ham are really, really struggling, I think. Let me see what their team stats for this game was. And West Ham, bearing in mind West Ham are the home team, they had less of the possession against Everton. Most of their possession wasn't, not most of their possession in the defensive half, 48%. Possession lost in defensive half was 48%. Possession lost in the mid, and this is where the problem is, I think. Possession lost in the middle third, so in their midfield, 64. And again, Souček, Rodriguez. I back Guimaraes, Joe Linton, and Tonali if he plays, but I think it'll probably be Bruno, Longstaff, and Joe Willock. Dual success rate is at 42%. That's not good at home. So Everton beat them by 54%. I think they're lacking a lot of intensity, West Ham, in their middle third. I don't know why that is. Is it because they got less ability and age in midfield, or is it that they're not getting the system? 7 successful dribbles, that'll probably be from Jared Bowen and maybe Somerville. It's not been good for West Ham. It's not been good. And if they maintain this against Newcastle, I I just don't see how they improve. So let's see Newcastle. Let's see Newcastle. Maybe are we hyping up Newcastle too much? Let's see what we can do. Now, the Forest game really, really impressed me. Let me go back. Let me go back and find Newcastle. The Forest game. I took you guys off. Let me bring you back, guys, back on. Now, let me know what you guys think of the Forest game. That's been my favorite game of the season so far for Newcastle United. My favorite performance for Newcastle United for so far. Partly because I like the fact in the first half we kept possession, we passed it, we kind of kept the ball moving. We kept Nottingham Forest constantly on their toes, and that stopped them from, because they like to do that kind of counter-attacking situation where they pin us back. We stopped them from doing that by keeping hold of the ball. The one thing that we did a little bit wrong is that we weren't as risky with the ball, and we were a little bit slow at times. Where we could have maybe took 1 or 2 touches and start taking 3 or 4, or wouldn't pass the ball in dangerous areas when players, especially from the midfield like Willock and Joe Linton, were making runs. They just simply weren't getting the ball. Now, in the second half, that changed. And Newcastle started doing the 1-2 passes, putting the ball in dangerous boxes, just getting the ball in the box as soon as possible. And obviously, that's when things turned around and we was able to obviously get the goals. That was the main thing for Newcastle. Oh, this is West Ham again. So that's what I really liked about the game. We showed different sides of ourselves in that game, and our performance was really good. And again, we went a goal down, which unfortunately, this is another thing I'm hoping that we do keep a clean sheet against West Ham at home. You know, even though we're third in the league so far for clean sheets, but I think we really need to improve on that. So this is us. Let me bring up that West Ham game. Not the West Ham game, excuse me, the Nottingham Forest game where we won 3-1. Here we go. So we show different sides of ourselves in that game. And we were just a better team. We were the better team. This is Nottingham Forest passing. We were the away team. Now, let me make sure you guys can see this. Yeah, you can see this. All right, excellent. So from back to front, obviously in the Pope here, the goalkeeper. Now you saw, for instance, the passing lines between Todibo for West Ham and Kilman were very thin, which surprised me. I'm surprised at how did they get the ball out then if those guys aren't playing. Whereas you can see Dan Burn and Shaw are constantly moving the ball between each other in successful manner. Shaw to Burn 19 times, Burn to Shaw 16 times. So they're either moving it left to the right, and the Newcastle have various options in attack. And then again, another thick line between Burn and Hall. And this is where I think West Ham are suffering a bit in terms of their creativity. So because Newcastle are building up from the back really, really well, and we're doing really well, especially from terms of passing out the press as well. I don't know if West Ham are doing that as well. So you can see this passing lane again from Burn to Hall. Burn to Hall 21 times during that game against Forest. Hall to Burn 16 times. Shaw to Livramento 9. Livramento to Shaw 9 times. Shaw to Livramento 8 times. So they're passing it backwards and forwards, side to side, moving the team around constantly. And look what this allows Newcastle to do is to really, really push up with essentially Bruno. So excuse me, the Hall is right up to the halfway line. Livramento is even beyond that. Obviously, Livramento and Hall have different strengths and attributes. Hall, even though Hall can obviously dribble and take on the ball, he's also really, really good at the passing. Livramento is far more the ball carrier, so maybe that's why you see him up further up as well. So this allows Newcastle to be creative in different ways. So, for instance, through the Livramento side, and you would have seen this with the Joe Linton goal, because Livramento is so good at either doing the overlaps or the underlaps as well. If when Jolinton found himself in a 1v1 against Moreno, Livramento did that overlap again, which gave Moreno two things to think about: is Jolinton going to pass it to Livramento, or is he going to shoot? And that split second of doubt allowed Jolinton to get the ball on his left foot and to shoot. So those are the kind of creativity they're able to do. And also, literally, I think two of those goals, maybe all of our goals, started off on that left side. And I'm gonna show you that in a moment in terms of Hall, through Hall making good decisions with the ball as well. But look, if you then burn to Hall, from Hall alone, his connection with Willock, Willock to Hall, 9 passes all game. Hall to Willock, 12 passes. So at least 21 passes between the two of them. Hall to Gordon. This is our forwards now. Gordon to Hall 5 times. Hall to Gordon 8 times. Again, Hall to Joe Linton 7 times from Joe Linton to Hall, 10 times from Hall to Joe Linton, 10 times Hall to Joe Linton, 7 from Joe Linton to Hall. Again, this is our left back connecting with our forward players, which has been excellent. Hall and I love the relationship between Bruno and Hall as well. Bruno and Hall, free from Bruno to Hall to 7 from Hall to Bruno. So Hall is connecting with our midfield. He's connecting with our forwards. Again, allowing Newcastle to be creative on that left side as well. And what we'll see in the goals that we scored, this is the goal replay map here. Let's see Newcastle's either one. The Barnes goal. Again, starts off with Hall. This is Hall, number 20. It starts off with Hall making the right decision, passing it off. That was an incredible goal. There was highlights from that as well. Game Hall, Bruno to Barnes, Barnes to Bruno to Tonali to Barnes. Excellent goal again from that whole side. Those passing lanes again coming from that left side of Hall. And if we go, for instance, I wonder how you can get the other stuff. But that's just an example of one of the goals. There was obviously the second goal from Joe Linton. The first goal from Joe Linton. Was it the second or third? Second goal from Joe Linton. Third goal was from Barnes. And obviously we scored a set piece. The whole point being is that Newcastle are very, very creative with our fullbacks, whereas Emerson and Wan-Bissaka for West Ham are not as creative. Yes, they push up as best as they can, but they don't have the same ability, technical ability, as Hall and Livramento on the ball. And those guys connect with our midfield, with Bruno dropping deep, especially when in possession, playing that deep line playmaker role. So, and then if you go to the other side of Livramento, number 21 here, he makes connections with I wonder, Isak, and we're going to go to Isak. Livramento and Isak, 3 and 2 pass, a little bit less, but fine, it's still good. Joe Linton and Livramento. Joe Linton now is connecting with Livramento, 4 to 6. Joe Linton in terms of passing. And this is, again, Gordon, Livramento connecting with Gordon 4 times. Livramento connect, because obviously Gordon was also switching sides from left to right. Livramento and Longstaff 8 and 5 times. Again, constant connections and kind of rotation of players, keeping that midfield and those front lines flowing. So whether it's on the left side, whether it's on the right side, Newcastle are being very, very fluid in their movement and their attacking ways. Centrally, look how much thick lines are there centrally. For instance, Bruno and Longstaff to in terms of passing, Longstaff to Bruno 10 times during that game. Bruno to Longstaff 7 times during that game. Bruno and Joe Linton 4 and 5 times. Again, constant passing lanes. Bruno and Livramento 4 and 4 times. Bruno and Hall 3 and 7 times. Constant, and another really strong connection again. Joe Linton and Hall, we mentioned that. Real good connections leading up all the way to um, Gordon and Willock. And Willock, that left side between Hall and Willock, whoever plays on that side is going to score goals. So whether it's Barnes or Gordon, I can see why they want to play on the left side. Gordon and Willock 8 and 5 times, and Isak. I'm going to end up with Isak because Isak was really impressive to me in that game. He was dropping in deep, then driving with the ball or holding the lines. He would go to the left side and connect here with Isak to Willock 6 times, Willock to Isak twice. Isak again with Isak and Hall this time. Isak to Hall 3 times. Hall to Isak. That's incredible time. He was connecting with everybody. He was connecting with Gordon. Gordon to Isak 3 times. Isak to Gordon 4 times. This is our forward play. Isak and Longstaff 3 and 4 times. Isak and Joe Linton 2 and 6 times. Isak and Livramento 3 and 2 times. So again, always keeping himself in the game. Lots of touches on the ball. I think he had about, I want to say definitely 30 plus. I want to say maybe reach 40 touches in the game. Isak. Defenders are also pushing up, and credit, because that was one of the criticisms that we had with Byrne and Shaw not pushing up. And those big gaps between our defense and midfield, they're pushing up and they're both creating chances, and they're doing and they're making those shot creating actions for Newcastle United. There's a constant level of creativity in this game for Newcastle. I think is it the highest score we've had this season so far? Correct me, guys, if I'm wrong. Have we scored more than 3 goals, more than 2 goals in so far this season? I'm not sure, but I think, and that's what I was a bit remiss that the international break came on, because had it not come on, I think Newcastle would have gone into this game with a lot of momentum, into the West Ham game with a lot of momentum, and I would have wanted that. So going to the tactical board, I was just putting this up again. Who plays? This is Hillman. Looks like West Ham like to push their guys up front as well. So Kilman, Todibo, who Newcastle have been linked to a lot. Todibo, he's 25. Wan-Bissaka is 29. Let's get this, 25. So what can Newcastle do to get victory in this game? 29. That is the big question. What can Newcastle do? Newcastle, I think, even though on paper, West Ham, I think this is the part I wanted to see, really. How do they set up? Is it a 4-2-3-1 West Ham, or is it a 4-1-4-1? So on paper, they're 4-1-4-1. Maybe this is part of their problem. West Ham, 4-1-4-1 they set up. All right, so 4-1-4-1. Let's go. 4-1-4-1. Then, but obviously in the actual game, in the flow of the game, they changed it up a little bit. So 4-1-4-1, and they're asking to make that work. I'm going to talk about Mikel Antonio a little bit as well. If we just spoke about how Isak connects with the forward line, connects with the midfield, connects with the advancing fullbacks of Hall and Livramento. I didn't see much of that from Antonio. And to make that work, to make this 4-1-4-1 formation work, Mr. Antonio has to be working those channels, really. Whereas I think he prefers to really play on the last man. So let me see, where is he? Antonio, the number 9, Somerville 7, Paqueta 10. So let's get this work. Let's continue. Somerville 7. Let's get this going, because West Ham are going to try and win the game, aren't they? Unless they come, if they come with a mindset of let's try and get a draw. they might get worse than that. Rodriguez is 24. Rodriguez is 24. I think he's not going to play. I think he got a red card. I want to say Rodriguez got a red card. There was a game that he got a red card. If anyone in the chat can tell me, I'll be very appreciative. So 4-1, 4-1, Paqueta. Who's the other guy that's playing? Who's the other guy that's playing? Suchek 28, Bowen 20. Suchek 28. Let's see what we can get here with Suchek. Suchek. Bowen, he's going to be the main threat. So despite where he is, he's the person that's going to be furthest up the pitch. He's number 20. Okay, so all right. So West Ham. Let's see what we can get for West Ham here. What we saw them do against Nottingham Forest. So it's not going to be Dan Burn. It's going to be Lloyd Kelly. I'm very excited to see Lloyd Kelly for Newcastle. I want to see if he takes his chance. This is his opportunity to claim his spot above Dan Burn. Can he keep Dan Burn out the team? We're gonna find out. I just think Newcastle are all wrong for West Ham. I try not to be. I mean, they have to prove it. But okay, so let's start off with West Ham. West Ham like to push their. So Emerson likes to get up. So does Bissaka. You'll find Bowen furthest man up with Antonio roughly here. And then you have this kind of connection between Suchek, Kilman, Somerville obviously as well will be around here. Let me just make sure something for West Ham. West Ham. How did they? Where was Somerville during this time? Let's see, Somerville against who did they play? Everton. All right, so here we go. There you are. This is against Everton at home. Not extreme map. Pass map. Come on, here we go. Somerville. That's Emerson. Somerville. Yeah, so Somerville's right there. Number 7. So he's gonna. So their main thing is like this. Then you've got the in between here. So Suchek and Rodriguez are right on top of each other. I don't know if that's part of the plan, because it can't be part of the plan. I mean, maybe that's why they're so out of position. Because you've got this big old gap. All right, fine. I'm sure West Ham know what they're doing. So Kilman, Saka, Todibo. Todibo will be. I mean, remember Newcastle were in for Kilman as well as Todibo, both ball playing centre backs, and struggling at the moment. So this is how West Ham are going to try, and if they are in possession, and they're going to try and press and try and get up front. This is the average position, but if they're, you can see that there's if they're going to attack, if they're going to press Newcastle, it will be Somerville. Emerson, if he's wise, has to really push up. It's going to be an interesting battle between Bissaka and Lewis Hall. Very interesting battle between Bissaka and Lewis Hall. But Lewis Hall should be confident. He's been playing really, really well. He's had that England call up. He's going to want to justify it. So yeah, Paqueta versus Longstaff, or maybe Bruno, his best friend. Rodriguez and Joe Linton. Oh, I know who I fancy in that battle. And then you'll have to Kilman and to Debo here. And this is the problem that's going to be for West Ham. Guys, if anybody's come in, do like, share, and subscribe. Oh, is this a bit small? Gosh, I zoomed in. I hope you guys can see it. So if this is West Ham with the ball pressing up. You can see the front three here. Let me get the box out. The front three of West Ham. Where are you? Here we go. All right, so this is the front three of West Ham here. There's one key battle. Then you've got smaller battles here. Bissaka, Lewis Hall. Then let me change this around a little bit. Let me get this back so you guys can see it. Goes a little bit. So Souček, Bruno. If they're pressing up Rodriguez, how are they going to do it? Because then it's going to be Souček, Bruno, Rodriguez, to Debo and Kilman on the ball. Gordon leaving Isak to kind of lead the press together with Willock has been exceptional. Do West Ham really want to do this? Do they really want to press up like this? That's my question, guys. Again, the whole aim is not to be overconfident, but I just fancy our players in the personal duels. So, especially, if West Ham have got the ball, if they're going to try and connect, for instance, to Debo and Bissaka isn't overly creative. Rodriguez isn't overly creative. They're going to try and create these triangles, at least between themselves, to try and hurt Newcastle. And this is where Kelly, I think, is going to come into battles. Shaw would have to be there and support. Maybe the key battle, obviously, for West Ham is Antonio versus Shaw. Souček is going to try and get in there as well and cause a little bit of havoc. But overall, West Ham are going to be trying to create these type of triangles between Rodriguez, Bowen, and Bissaka. And Newcastle and Joe Linton is going to be there to support Hall, and Kelly is going to have to be very sharp as well. So everything kind of comes across it. If they go on the left here, Willock at times as well will be kind of ready. It'll be interesting how Eddie Howe uses Willock in this type of situation. Would he want to follow? Would he want him to follow Rodriguez and allow Joe Linton to kind of double up on Bissaka and Hall? That might be one of those cases as well to prevent kind of them getting through to Bowen in particular. And if that happens, then you'll have Bruno, Isak, Gordon dropping in. And then you'll have Todibo and Kilman, hoping that essentially West Ham create a shot, creating action from this opportunity. Because if they don't, and say, friends, this is exactly what happened in the Forest. Newcastle get that ball back. They lose Hall. Joe Linton play the ball between themselves, get it over to Isak. Then Willock starts making the runs. Gordon starts making the runs. Kilman has to follow. I fancy Gordon's pace against Kilman, not overly quick. Isak against Todibo. Todibo's got a bit of pace. Then you've got Willock. Then you'll have obviously the supporting cast of either Bruno or Longstaff. And so West Ham make themselves very vulnerable. And the problem for West Ham is Rodriguez still can't figure out if he's suspended or not. And Souček and Paqueta don't have the greatest of recovery pace. And if West Ham do kind of do the situation when they press up against Newcastle, they make themselves very, very vulnerable. So I don't think they do this. I don't think they press up against Newcastle in this way. I think what instead happens is I'll have to take this off. Can I take this off? Remove. You're going to see them trying to hit Newcastle on the counter. So now we get to see Newcastle with the ball this time. So Todibo, Kilman, Bissaka on the right, Emerson, Paqueta. No, Rodriguez is here. He's responsible. You might see him actually. I didn't mention that. You won't see. Rodriguez will be responsible, and this is maybe where the gaps are. I didn't show it earlier. But if you have Kilman, let me go back here. If you have these guys pressing up, Rodriguez, because of the concern that Newcastle can hit them on the break, Rodriguez would be responsible for trying to protect this back two. But at the same time, if he's not there supporting, Souček has to be there supporting in these kind of creating these type of triangles between Souček and Bowen. But you can already see that if Souček does that, he leaves this gap. Then Paquette has to come over. Longstaff is here. They're always like a man short here, West Ham, and that leaves them vulnerable to the attack because Rodriguez is hanging back. If Rodriguez pushes forward, he again hasn't got the recovery pace should the ball break. So I just feel like West Ham will be in the catch-22 should those things happen. Right, so we'll finish up with Newcastle on the ball. Paquet here, Emerson, Bissaka. 1v1 guy, former Manchester United, a right back. Rodriguez, Souček. Somerville. Here, who I rate a lot, we have to watch him, and obviously Jarrod Bowen, their talisman, their main creator. And I just hope Newcastle they will be fully focused in this game. Don't let West Ham go a goal up and start trying to kind of put up a low block and catch us on the count and that kind of stuff, which has happened in the past. We need to be focused. We need to be aggressive. What you'll see here is Livramento pushing right up, and he'll be his job and it'll be Somerville's job to defend that. And again, you'll see Gordon pushing up right against Emerson as well. Longstaff, Bruno, Antonio's going to have a choice to push up as well. Isak obviously leading the line, but he'll also be dropping back. Hall will be going right up against Bissaka as well, or at least here. Joe Linton, Willock, Kelly. And the thing is of Kelly, obviously his athleticism, his speed. I just see Newcastle being really, really aggressive. Obviously, we have to take care of Antonio, and Kelly will be watching that. But I think you're going to create these type of situations sometimes. Either if Newcastle are pressing up high with Lewis Hall here, you'll see either Bruno or Longstaff protecting the back two a little bit here. So if the ball does break for West Ham on the counter for Bowen and others, you have Longstaff, Kelly, and Shaw obviously moving across to defend against that. I just think that we can really, really hold, and we can really pin back West Ham in that situation. So Shaw, Kelly, again responsible guys, good on the ball, technical ability, and I think what you're going to see here, you're going to see these triangles beginning to form. Gordon, Livramento, Bruno, and others. Obviously, Paquette will be up against his friend. Isak will be joining in as well. And maybe you'll have Willock taking up the centre bit. So you've always got somebody causing the threat. But you see these kind of triangles being formed here. It's not a very good triangle. It is. It's not bad. Paquette has to follow him. Somerville, Livramento, Gordon. The movement on Gordon and Emerson will be very important. Trying to find Isak as well. Can West Ham stop this? Paquette will be forced to go back. Longstaff will be there supporting. Joe Linton, Hall, possibly as well. That's obviously from if we're from that side. Can West Ham stop Newcastle? Can Emerson stop Gordon on 1v1? Livramento from kind of doing these overlaps. If the ball gets to Bruno, and Bruno's on the ball on the east side, he's able to dictate play between Gordon and Livramento. Now, what the part of the problem for Newcastle was in the first half of the Nottingham Forest Forest game, Newcastle were doing really well in terms of keeping possession. So if they weren't able to get through those, recycle the ball around. However, sometimes when the runs were being made, i.e., Gordon here or whatnot, what would happen is that they didn't take the risk of the ball as much. And I think Eddie Howe would hopefully remind them of that and say, look, if there's an opening, just go through, just push forward, take our chances. The other situation is we saw Joe Linton play really well on that right side as well. Now, Gordon's going to love this side. And I wonder if we're going to see a lot more change here. Obviously, Joe Linton's able to take the ball in his left side and shoot. Livramento or get the ball to the on-running Livramento. I wonder if Joe Linton starts on the right side, or they still might have start Gordon on the right side, but to keep things keep West Ham guessing, they might start Gordon on the right side, but during the game, you'll see Joe Linton and Gordon changing it up a little bit, just keeping them guessing. They have to look out for that. On the other side, in terms of, again, forming those triangles on the flanks for Newcastle, we have Todibo, Bissaka, Todibo, and Souček, and Bowen. This is the side of Bowen, and this is the side that West Ham will be most trying to set things off if they have to. In this case, you'll have Hall pushing up and Bowen having to follow him, and either Gordon, Willock, and Hall. I think wherever Hall is going to be creativity. All right, so or obviously Joe Linton might be going in there as well. So you've got this three in the back situation, Longstaff protecting again, and Antonio will be somewhere around here trying to maintain some sort of threat from the attacking side of things. Again, are West Ham able to keep, Bowen will be in charge of tracking Lewis Hall. But then if we can keep Bowen away from our side of things, we already killed their attack on that left side. And we've got Kelly here as well. So maybe we do focus our side on the left side and keep their main man Hall. Hey, Oliver, hope you're well, sir. Hope you are well. Good to see you. Good to see you. I hope to see if Ken Hall keep Bowen busy essentially and create these triangles with Willock and Gordon and others. And obviously Isak is on fire. Todibo will be very worried about Mr. Isak. Joe Linton joining in. I just see Newcastle keeping real possession. Obviously, there is always the threat of Bowen, but I almost feel like with Kelly, Livramento, that pace, we can keep them off our backs. And I think hopefully with Trippier, Callum Wilson back, I know when I'm saying Callum Wilson, anything is possible. I'm going to have faith and say that he's going to be back. But that will probably keep Osola off the team. But Wilson and Trippier are there. Barnes on the bench. So you'll have Wilson, Barnes, Trippier on the bench, Tonali on the bench. Probably I don't see Tonali starting. Eddie Howe likes to keep a winning side. If anything, hopefully we're not chasing the game or anything like that. But we've got guys that can come off the bench and chase the game. But I just think in terms of the flanks, Newcastle can really punish West Ham and keep the hold of the ball that way. But they have to be focused. And Isak, obviously, he's doing so well in terms of how he's connecting with either the left flank or the right flank and keeping everything flowing, allowing Bruno to get involved in the game as well. Longstaff at times being involved and crashing into the box or just protecting the front. If Livramento or Hall go venturing forward, Longstaff often drops back here and he protects the back too. So you kind of create these type of situations. If, for instance, Livramento, even if we're on the left side here attacking, you'll have Livramento here keeping the lines, holding the lines and keeping them guessing, which allows Joe Linton and Isak to drop in, and then you start creating these overloads. Creating these overloads here, and this is what really will start to really hurt West Ham. So this is my kind of view in terms of the game. I think West Ham obviously have the opportunities on the break, but so long as Newcastle are focused, are sharp, we have the ability, we have the capability to really hurt West Ham and keep them pinned back. But let me know what you guys think. Apologies, I didn't get to kind of prepare as much as I'd like. I would have shown some highlights of West Ham, and I do suspect their intensity is not as good as it is. But we'll see what happens after the international break. I hope I haven't got to see how well we've done after international break so far. Maybe we also got to check our intensity, but we're playing at home. We're playing at St. James's Park. We've had a few more days rest in comparison to other teams as well. So I really, really see a Newcastle team that's going to be well up for this. Well up for this. And it's going to be up to West Ham to contain us. I don't think they will. And so I think Newcastle will win this game 3-0. Let me know what you guys think. Do you back the Toon? What do you think is going to be? Whether you think we draw or lose doesn't mean you don't back the Toon, but do you think Newcastle can also get something out of the game? Oliver, hopefully we can continue our form pre-break. You know what, Oliver, I was saying earlier on that I feel like the international break came too soon for us. That Nottingham Forest game is like another opportunity for us to. I thought if we continued, I think I would have been so. I'm confident now, but I would have been even more confident coming into the West Ham game. The international break kind of puts in that extra little bit of that another variable. Players have gone away. I know some players stayed and stuff like that, but we'll see. We still got time. We're not playing tomorrow. We're not playing the day out. Eddie Howe still got these guys for the next 3-4 days before the game. So there's plenty of time to train and see what's going on. So yeah, 3-0 from me. I'm confident Eddie can get the lads grafting exactly, and I wonder. This is a different type of pressure for Newcastle. We are the firm favourites. We're at home, St. James's Park, under the lights. We're in good form. Our players, by the grace of God, are all fit. Most of them, and I know that on some of them, I'm taking a chance. Callum Wilson, hopefully he will be on the bench. Trippier and others. But I really back Newcastle to do something, and this, they are the pressure is they're expected to win, and maybe less so in West Ham. And has Lopetegui, for instance, had a little bit more time with the players? Have they bonded and stuff like that? What are they going to come up with? There's a little bit more variable in that. But I back Newcastle to win 3-0. That's my thoughts on the game. But let me know what you guys think. Do you back Newcastle to get to win this game 3-0? Or no, what do you think the scoreline will be? Let me know. Send in your views, send in your thoughts. And I look forward to seeing you all guys next week, Tuesday as well. As always, it's been a blessing. I hope you guys had a good evening. Make sure you look after each other. And until next time, folks, take care and God bless.